All right, welcome back, everybody. Y'all know what time it is, B time. Today, I got a very, very special guest on today, and she's been an inspiration to me. And she is a head coach for a women's basketball team. So I want to formally introduce you guys, Ashley Xiong. How you doing, Ashley?
Hey, B, I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you having me on here, and I'm excited to just share a little bit of my story with you guys.
Hey, I'm glad you're doing good. Yes, absolutely. I know we've been trying to get this together for a very long time. I think it's been about 6 months, kind of somewhere around that. I know you've
Yeah.
been busy. I've been busy. I know we caught up a few times, but never really got the chance to kind of sit down and get things rolling. But yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to be on my show. Um, it's gonna be a great show, and I'm really excited as well too. So, how's everything over there in Grand Rapids?
Everything's great, man. It's like I was saying, we're rolling in here on preseason. We've got students moving in this week. So it's a really exciting time of the year. I feel like, we always tell everyone that basketball season never really ends because it never does.
Right.
So we're moving into preseason right now, and then October 15th starts official practices. And then that'll take us to March, where everyone hears of March Madness during tournament play. And then that kind of takes us right back to the summer and in our off season. And, as for us coaches, recruiting time. So I'm excited for the season.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I can't wait too, and I'm looking forward to joining some of the games. So hopefully you guys come in town. I definitely want to be a part of it and watch a little bit of the action. But before we get started, how about you tell a little bit about yourself to our viewers who don't know who Ashley Stone is?
Yeah, of course. So a little bit about me and kind of how I got to where I'm at. I started playing basketball in fifth grade, and it just started in at recess. I was at recess, and we just had friends, and they were playing ball, and they just wanted me to play too, and so I was like, hey, why not? So I started playing ball with them, and little did I know, I did better than I thought I did. And I had some friends that were like, hey, do you want to play with us, like, on a team? And I'm like, I don't know, like, none of my family members have played on an organized team before or anything. So I had no clue. And so, yeah, long story short, they got me to play. So I started in fifth grade, and then I started Parks and Recs. And then I ended up doing travel basketball because those same friends played travel. So I did some AAU basketball from fifth grade until my freshman year, and then played varsity basketball 4 years as the starting point guard at Holly High School. And then after I graduated, I did not play college basketball. I played some club basketball at Grand Valley, where I attended. And then for a little bit, when I was down at the University of Akron, I played for a little bit down there too for the club team. And then I stopped playing. I got married, and life kind of changes and takes you in a different path. And so with me wanting to still stay in the game, I got a hold of, my coaches in the past that have kind of, helped me along the way. And I just figured out it's always been a passion. It's always been something that has helped, me be who I am today. And so I wanted to give back and get back into coaching. And so for me, it was really hard. I started coaching. If we really want to date all the way back, it was, let's see, my junior year of high school. I started helping out our eighth grade team at the Holly area school district. So just helping out our eighth grade team. And then that was like the very first time. And aside from that, I really kickstarted my coaching career in 2016 with the fifth grade AAU team for an organization called Michigan Basketball Academy out here in Grand Rapids. So then I had coached that team, and then I got involved with the Grand Valley club team. I ended up rupturing my Achilles tendon. That was I'm telling you, playing all these years, that was my worst injury. So, yep, I got involved with playing, and then I wanted to stay on board. And so I coached for a season at Grand Valley as the head coach for the club team in 16 to 17. And then in 17 to 18, I got the head coach job at Rockford High School, coaching the freshman girls there. And then that year, I was also coaching the 8th grade regional team for that Michigan Basketball Academy. And then the next year, I really wanted to dive in. I kind of figured out, as much as I love giving back and liking to coach, the younger kids, I wanted to really get into coaching more of like adults and in the college realm. And so I reached out to a ton of my mentors, my coaches, found my current mentor, Steve Yang. Shout out to him. He coaches down at McNeese State University. So he's been helping me along the way. And so in 18 and 19, I got my first break, and I got my first assistant coach position at the college level at Grace Christian. And so then I was there from 18 to 19 was my first year. And then I just finished up this year here, or this last season at Grace as the head coach. And this year, you guys are some of the first to hear it. I just accepted an assistant coach position at Davenport University. So I'm excited for that journey.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I attend Davenport University myself.
Go
so
Panthers.
I'm excited, even though I'm taking online classes, but I definitely I'm excited. I'm excited for you, Ashley. I think you came a very long way. Of course, I know your brothers and all of them. We all play on the same flag football team. So I'm very familiar with your family. And how important is your family? Are they very supportive about what you do? How far you came along from being a young basketball player into now coaching at the collegiate level? Like, how important is family to you?
Oh, it's number one. I will never forget where I come from, the people who have helped me along the way. That includes family members from my siblings, my immediate family, my parents, to my husband, my in-laws, to my cousins and my aunt and uncles, friends. You guys, you guys have, like you said, you guys have kind of watched me along the way as a player to now being a coach. And family they've been so supportive in everything that I do, whether it's been financials, whether it's been, donating or words of encouragement, or, just sending things out to me as I'm going and trying to encourage me to keep on going, to keep believing in my dreams and my passions. So family's been number one. And that's the one constant in this crazy industry that we're in with coaching.
One thing, being home, you being home, me being home, a lot of parents, when we grew up in our generation, of course, our parents always wanted us to do good. They always want us to be the best that we can be. Was it ever hard? Was your parents very supportive that you wanted to play sports? Because a lot of parents, they're like, well, we don't want you to play sports because there's a lot of distraction for you. You can't concentrate. You can't get a good job. You can't get you don't go to college. So, like, how important was your parents being a role model or even supporting you through the whole process? Because a lot of kids today, they don't get that kind of opportunity. I want to hear from your perspective, like, how did your parents go about it, knowing that, hey, you play basketball, now you're a coach? Like, what was their mindset, and how was it about, coming from your parents? Was they very supportive of you?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And I love it when I'm on podcasts, and especially you're the second one person to interview me and ask me a similar question. But the biggest thing about this question is understanding that, like my parents are older, my parents, they're very traditional. And being not just Hmong, but a Hmong female, right? A Hmong female wanting to do what I am doing right now is it's out of the ordinary, honestly. Today in this modern day, I think as the next generation comes up and we have younger parents who start to understand that sports can really affect in a very positive way for their kids. I think the world has changed a little bit as we've grown. But for me personally, growing up, like playing basketball, even at the fifth grade level, it was hard. Like it took a lot of convincing for my parents to be like, is it even worth it? We got to take you to practice. Not just, Parks and Rec was only 2 days out of the week and then games on Saturday. So it wasn't a ton, but I have a ton of siblings. So I have a ton of siblings. It was just my mom and dad working. And, aside from that, 2 older siblings that would take me whenever they could, they were away at college. And so getting me to practices and all that stuff was difficult. And it wasn't, I truly believe that it wasn't because they didn't believe that it would help me in any other way. It was the conveniency of, them trying to work and trying to get me to school and then get me to practice and then have to take care of the rest of my siblings too. So I think for them, like I said, it took a lot of convincing. My brother Chu, a second father to me, he really, really pushed for my parents to let me play, and so they allowed me to play, and then they allowed me to pay AAU, and AAU it's a lot of money, at that time.
Oh yeah.
At that time it's $800-$900, and you're trying to raise money to play ball, and then not just that, you got to travel to your tournaments, right? So you got hotel fees, you got paying for gas, you got all these different things, and so it's not just 800-900 one time. And so alongside of that, my AAU coaches, they helped me along that way too, and helped me with picking me up from practice, taking me home, helping raise money, helping cover things for me. And so with that being said, as I got better, as I got older too, I think my parents really started to realize, oh dang, like, she's pretty good. And it's not just like us that recognize, or my family that recognizes, it's teammates, it's coaches, it's not just your coaches in the organization, it's other organizations now noticing as well, in schools. And so they allowed me to keep on playing, and I played through school. And then when we moved from Waterford to Holly, I stopped paying AAU, and I focused on high school. And I think the biggest thing was that I had no clue that you could go to school, and AAU was really to try to get a scholarship for college, And I don't know that my parents definitely didn't know that either, right? They definitely didn't know that. But another thing that I struggled with as I got older and playing too was the question came from my parents was, well, how is this going to help you? Right? This isn't going to pay for your bills when you're done with high school. This isn't going to do that. This isn't going to, you have to have an education. And so I think the lack of knowledge and knowing that, hey, like these days, what do people play AAU for? They play so they can get a scholarship. They play so they can get their college paid for. So that lack of knowledge and just understanding that process, then I think hurt me, and hurt really just any of the Hmong generation that was in sports during that time, because parents didn't have that understanding. So I hope that as I'm kind of sharing this, if there are still parents out there that are struggling to allow their kids, especially Hmong females, to play sports, understand that this is bigger than basketball. It's bigger than soccer, bigger than volleyball. It's about teaching them life skills through sports. And then hopefully with their skills and all the time that they put into it, that they can get a scholarship out of it and get some school paid for. Because, like I said, I didn't play college basketball. I didn't get a scholarship. And sometimes I regret it, but at the end of the day, I'm pretty content, because I know that, this is where God wanted me, and he wanted me to coach. And so, and I love coaching, and I wouldn't give it up. So, that's something really important. And my parents, like I said, even though we've had rough patches along the way, they've come to an understanding like, hey, you could make a living out of coaching. Hey, you could make a living out of playing. But the hard thing is, how do the athletes tell their parents, right? How do they show and how do they research and say, hey, mom and dad, this is what I could do with my career. If I do well in high school, I could get a scholarship, or I could go play overseas, or I could go do this and I can do that, or I can coach, mom and dad. And so, like, for me, my parents, even though they're so supportive in coaching and everything, it's like they're always asking, like, well, how much money do you make? How much how much money? And it's not because they want to know that. It's because they truly care about your well-being. Are you going to be able to afford your bills and your life and all that sort of stuff? And so those are all very, very valid questions. But at the end of the day, I have to make sure that I am giving them the knowledge that I know. Like, I'll find the salaries of some of the highest coaches and say, hey, mom and dad, this is what this coach is making. Right. But that's because he's at a Division I school. Tom Izzo is making millions of dollars because he's at Michigan State, right? Jim Harbaugh is making millions of dollars because he's at Michigan. Mm-hmm. And they had to take, different steps to get to that spot. And so I think just making sure that you tell your parents and you allow them to be a part of the process, I think it makes it a lot easier for them to buy into your dreams and believe in you and support you.
Absolutely. Because, a lot of parents, they, like you said, you hit the spot. They don't understand the process, especially sports, right? When they look at sports, especially us growing up, they're like, oh, you guys play for fun. It's, they don't see the behind the scene. They don't see the process. They don't see that it's more than just a game for people. Like you said, you can make a career out of this. Of course, everybody who makes a career out of something got to have the passion, right? It doesn't matter what it is. They got to have the passion. That's how you get it. I think you prove to your parents, and not just to your parents, but your family, that, this was a career that you wanted to pursue. And now you're there. And I'm sure they're more than just supportive now. But yeah, you're absolutely right, because I know that when I grew up, my parents, they didn't look at it as in like, that's something that I can move towards and make something out of it, and obviously I am moving toward it now. But as growing up as a young teenager, they didn't look at it. They just, that's nothing, that's nothing. You need to get an education. And like you said, when they ask about how much you make, they're not worrying about, they technically don't really care about what it is. They want you to be financially ready, financially set as you get older. So, it's a typical question. I think it comes from a typical Hmong family, Asian family. They'll always ask these kind of questions. And I think it's not something to offend anybody about it. It's just more for, their understanding of how is it going to take you in life, So that's great. I know your parents, and I know your family, and I know they're supportive. You have a very supportive family. Me and your brothers, we get along very well and stuff like that. But, what is anybody out there who helped you inspire to be a coach? Was that something that you just kind of said, I know you said at the beginning that you wanted to not just, you never played collegiate basketball, but you decided you wanted to take that step. Was anybody there next to you inspiring you? Who inspired you to actually be where you're at today?
Yeah, I think that question is to like single one person out. I think it's pretty hard to say one person. I think there are so many people that were a part of that journey that I had no clue. I mean, I wasn't a player, then all of a sudden I was like, man, I'm going to coach one day, because I never thought of that, right? My dreams were, I want to play at the next level. I want to play at the next level. And sometimes I didn't know what the next level was. So for me, it was, I just want to play at the next level. I want to keep playing. I'm having fun. I love the people that I'm around. I love the feeling that it gives me. But mainly, as I kind of think about that question, my answer is, my coaches and the people that have helped me. So my family and friends. And, you know, I'm a huge believer in giving back. I'm a huge believer in paying it forward. And that's because, you know, I touched on it a little bit earlier was, you know, being from a big family, there are so many people that helped me along the way. And to say, like I said earlier, to say that I wanted to be a coach when I was young, that wasn't it either, you know.
Right.
That wasn't it either. And I think that with so many people helping me and knowing that I wasn't going to play college basketball, I wasn't going to play at the next level, I was like, okay, well then how do I give back? And so when I started coaching in that 16-17 year, my first fifth grade team, that was, I'll tell you what, man, God was like humbling me because, you know, I coached this team and it was, you have to have a lot of patience to coach a team like that. And it was so rewarding though. And I just remember coaching them and my first practice, and I was just like, dang, I love coaching, but why is it so hard to coach them right now? Because you might have their attention for like 20 minutes, and then from the rest of it, you don't have their attention anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you know, I just wanted to like keep coaching at a higher level so that I could say, hey, go run this drill, and I'll teach them once, and then they're going to remember it next time. As for my fifth graders, it was a repetitive thing, right? And you know, thank God for all those young youth coaches out there, because without your guys' patience, you know, and coaching the fundamentals to our kids that kind of grow up in the sports world here, man, us college coaches would not be anywhere without them. So shout out to them and their patience and teaching the kids young. And so that we can just say, hey, go run this drill. Hey, remember when you ran or learned about this, you know, this is what we're doing now.
What is, you know, I asked on one of my other podcasts, I was talking to Ipal, he was a very, very, very good soccer player in the Hmong community. And then he also became a coach himself in high school.
Okay.
He talked about how he knew how to play the game, but the moment he had to coach the game, it was two whole different things. Can you run through some of the aspects of being a player and then being a coach, what the difference is? Because he said it was a struggle for him. So he said that he had to go retrain himself not to be a player and to be more of a coach. Like, was that a tough task for you, converting from a basketball player to like a coach mindself?
Oh yeah, I think that was one of the biggest battles is, you know, like I said, I remember going back to coaching my first team, that fifth grade team, and it was like, you're trying to just teach them triple threat. You're trying to just teach them, you know, jump stop and do, you know, you're trying to teach them just these small things. And it's like, or you watch their first game and you just want to go out and do it for them. And you can't, right? You can't. You're in a whole different position now, and you have to be able to teach them. And so I think that was the biggest battle, was trying to mentally get myself out of being a player. Now, being a player, I think it's very important for me as a head coach. I really, really valued myself in being a player coach, because in a huddle, at times you will just hear my voice where it's, we got to do this, we got to do that, offense, defense, this play here, right? And then at times you'll hear me say, hey, our play's not working. You guys are out there right now. What are you seeing? What's working? What's not working? And so, but I think that became very effective, because when I was a player, my coach did that for us too. And so, you know, being able to use some of those strategies and saying, hey, I know that I can see a lot just from on the sideline, but I don't see everything. That's why I have two other assistants. That's why we have the rest of the bench there. That's why we have to continuously watch film and scout and do all these things, right? So, but the mentality from a player to a coach, you have to watch it from a different view now. It's not just about scoring. It's not just about running the play correctly. It's not just about all those things. It's about, okay, being disciplined to run the plays, because if you're not disciplined to run the plays, well, then the first option, we might score all the time. But if we're not disciplined to rerun this again, then we might not ever have our second, third, or fourth option out of this play. So, I think I learned a lot, patience, seeing the game a little bit differently, obviously, but I definitely think that it helps being a player before and understanding the game from that perspective, because I think it opens up your mind a lot more. But there are a lot of great coaches out there that have never played the game before either.
Oh yeah.
And so just because you're a great player doesn't make you a great coach. That's the thing. So it's, how much are you willing to learn, and how much are you willing to be humble about learning from your players too?
Right. Got to be open, right? You got to be open-minded about everything. So that's how you make your players better, and that's how you actually make yourself better too, as well.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
You mentioned you was at Waterford. You guys moved to Holly. You played high school basketball. Tell me a little bit about high school basketball. What was the experience like from AAU to high school basketball?
Yeah, man, I miss high school a lot. I mean, I was obviously a big sports person in high school, and all around supported all of our teams at the school during that time, very active in everything that we did. So being a part of a team is just, I mean, it's huge. I think as humans, as people, we like to be a part of something. We like to feel important. And so being a part of that team for 4 years, and I'm going to tell this story because my high school coach tells this story every single time. He says, he remembers me playing in 8th grade at Sherman Middle School. And he said he remembers coming to scout our 8th grade team to see if there were any 8th graders that would be able to play varsity as a freshman. And he brought 5 or 6 girls to that game. So they were juniors, seniors coming to my game as an 8th grader. And he was just like, I remember after the game, all those girls came up to me. They're like, Coach, we got to have her. We got to have her. And it just makes you feel like you're wanted, to know that it's validated from your teammates and your coaches that you're good enough, not just skill wise and talent wise, but like leadership wise. And so being a part of a team was definitely important. It was a bummer because we made it to districts, but we never made it out of districts. And so I joked a lot about, winning regional championships, making it to the Final Four at Grace. And, I never got to experience that as a high school player. But like I said, man, I think it was all in God's plan because I got to experience that as a coach. So high school was definitely a chapter in my life that I will never forget.
How effective is it to having a relationship with your team? Because I always tell my guys on my football team, you play well together when you get to know one another. Like, how important is that? And how big of a factor is that to have a team that should at least have a tight bond? Like, how important is that to you?
Yeah. So, and you're talking about player to player,
player
right?
to player.
Yeah. So, to me, that's the number one thing. You can have all the skills you want. You can have all the talents in the world. You could be the best player in the world, but if you can't get along with your teammates, that's a problem. And so with the programs, at least that I've got to be a part of and run, we build our culture first. And for me, my first year as a head coach last year, I learned very quickly that culture isn't built overnight. It's not built in a year. That takes time, right? It takes time to, at least at our level, build the atmosphere, the environment that we want, the family feel that we want, right? And that means bringing in the right kids that have the same standards and values that you want, kids that care about others and not just themselves. And so for athletes out there, no matter how much you think that you make a team, it's the cliche quote of there's no I in team, because there's not. And you have to rely on your teammates. If you want to win big. And like I always say, one of my biggest goals when I recruit my kids, when I was at Grace, I told them is my number one goal is to help prepare you for life after basketball. And so, it's building the culture, it's spending time with them. And there was one point in my career where I'm like, you don't have to be best friends with your teammates. You don't have to get to know them outside of basketball. And you don't have to, right? You don't have to. But I'm telling you, the teams that do get to know each other outside of basketball, outside of their sports and their and the field and whatever sport that they're playing, those are the teams that flourish, that will make it to the finals, that will win. You want to know why? Because at the end of the day, they care for each other. They care that, wow, like I might be injured and I might be the starting point guard, but my backup, that's my sister, that's my brother. They're going to come on and they're going to do great. And I'm going to be happy for them. Because when you get kids that don't care about each other, it's, oh yeah, I'm praying for your downfall. I'm praying for your downfall. And so when kids care about each other outside of their sport and outside of practice and games and all that stuff, and they build that relationship with each other, that's championship culture right there.
Yeah, I truly believe so. I definitely can relate to that because, a lot of kids today, they don't realize how important is bonding with each other. Backing up your brother, backing up your sister, whoever that might be, because these are the people that you go into battle with every day. You go to practice, and you got to be mentally and physically be ready. And if you're not, of course, you're going to have that teammate that's going to be there next to you to kind of give you that boost of motivation, that confidence. So I think that's very important too. Having players having a good relationship is a positive mindset. So that's great. Moving forward, you now you're done with high school. You went to college. You graduated college. How did that opportunity even come to play? Being at Grace.
Yeah, so it, like I said, it started after I got the coaching opportunity at Rockford in the 17-18 year. And after I got done coaching there, we were actually going to make a move down back to Ohio, back to where my in-laws are at. And at that point I was like, okay, then that means I'm done coaching at Rockford. I need to find a next coaching gig. And I was really at the point where during this time, I was trying to figure out life for myself. And, that was, I think, the year after or during the year that I was graduating college. And, my senior year is like my last semester, I had this thought and I told Dan, my husband, that, man, I think I want to change my major. It's my last semester. And I'm like, I think I want to change my major to sports management. Like, I just had this, thought in my head, like, why aren't I doing something that I love, And at this time I was like, I was really into like CrossFit and working out, and I wanted to open up my own CrossFit box. And so I did all this research on it. And, at the end of the day, I said to myself, well, yeah, I could open it. Yeah, I could make money because, it was at the start of when CrossFit was getting real big too.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I could do all these things, but at the end of the day, am I going to love what I'm doing? And then it just took over me. And then it led me to, do I want to do sports management? And then, I talked to Dan, I talked to my advisors, and I ended up finishing my degree in supply chain management, a business degree at Grand Valley. But, I just, that really kickstarted things. And then I was like, well, why aren't I doing something more with coaching? Right. And I was like, why aren't I doing more with coaching? And so I wanted to start training kids. But then when I wanted to start training kids, I was like, I don't really know kids around here. So how do I get myself involved? Right. How do I get myself involved with the community? How do I get to know people so that I can get clients? I can get players to train. And so then I had this thought in my head, okay, well then I should probably start coaching. Right. I should probably start coaching. And then I did some research and I was like, man, like these college coaches, you know, maybe you can make a career out of it. And so after that, I was like, okay, my dreams are to own my own sports complex one day and to be able to give back to kids that, you know, want to play sports, but don't necessarily have either the funds or time or resources to do it. And I said, you know, that's great. Those are all great dreams, but I can't do that today. I can't do that in a year, 2 years. I need to take some steps to get there. And so I was like, okay, well then I'm going to start with coaching. And so that was already my second year into coaching, and I started to get to know more people. And then, like I told you earlier, coaching the young kids, I was just like, you know, I kind of want to try to coach at the higher level. And then Amanda, which is my sister-in-law, you know, we became very, very close friends because she went to Grand Valley too. And so, you know, we shared a lot of our dreams and our aspirations together. And she's like, hey, Ash, like my Steve, I think Steve is like her uncle, maybe. And she was just like, hey, Steve, you know, my uncle, he coaches women's basketball at the collegiate level. I was like, what? Like, small world, you know?
Yeah.
And so then she was like, yeah, you should reach out to him. And I was like, oh yeah, like I should. So then one day I looked him up on LinkedIn and I sent him a message. And I just remember I didn't get a response for like maybe a week or 2 weeks. I'm just like, ah, dang, like you know, this was a bust kind of thing. And then one random day he responded back to me and he was like, hey, like, I don't even look at my LinkedIn. Like, I don't know why, but like I looked at it today and I got my message. And so then that kind of kickstarted things off with Steve Yang, who is my mentor right now and has really helped me along the way. And, you know, those conversations looked like, do you want to coach collegiately, or do you want to be an athletic director? Do you just want to be in sports management? Like, what are you looking like administration wise? And, you know, I was like, no, I want to coach. And, you know, he's always, from the very beginning, always been very blunt about, hey, this is going to be hard. Like, you know, superstars aren't made overnight. Coaches aren't made overnight. Tom Izzo wasn't made overnight. Susie Merchant at Michigan State wasn't made overnight. It took time. And so then I decided, I was like, you know, I want to do this. And he has really helped me along the way. He's helped me along the way in regards to understanding, you know, what things I have to do to get to the next level. And it means sacrificing a lot of things, sacrificing the types of jobs you have, sacrificing the pay, sacrificing volunteering your time and doing all of these things. And so that's the long story short to how I got to college coaching. And so then how I got to Grace, though, is I coached at Michigan Basketball Academy. My boss there, I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I'm looking to tap into college coaching. Do you know anyone that's looking? And she texted me back and she was like, hey, yeah, actually, one of the dads of the daughters that I coach on my team just got the job at Grace. And so then she was like, here's his number, all this stuff. So I interviewed everything. And then like I said, I got my first break. I got my first opportunity to coach at the collegiate level. And so then I was hired in as an assistant coach and started my first year in the 2018-2019 year.
Wow. Was it pretty tough, you have to say? Was there anybody else that was being interviewed before you landed the job?
Yeah, I think he had a few interviews beforehand. The thing that you'll learn, especially, and I know you probably hear this a lot about any industry really, but like coaching has been the toughest like industry where I've tried to get into the job force, and it's really hard. It's honestly like the people that you know, right? And so I think that you know, one of the reasons I got that job was because of the networking that I had with my boss, who knew him already, who knew my head coach then already. And we had a connection because he had kind of already known me in passing because I was coaching for Michigan Basketball Academy, and then his daughter was playing for that organization as well. Okay. So I was nervous because that same year when I wanted to get into it, I sent out nearly, I don't know, 150 emails out to coaches all over the nation, just trying to like volunteer to be
Yeah.
on their staff,
Yeah.
just trying to volunteer to be on their staff. And I did actually get another opportunity at that same year at Notre Dame College, their Division II school out in Cleveland, Ohio. So
Okay.
if you remember, I was telling you that was the year we were going to move back to Ohio.
Yeah.
And so I had an interview with them, and the head coach then actually offered me a position for a graduate assistant position. And so I actually, I accepted that position, and we were going to move down. We were set. And then this opportunity at Grace came, and, I prayed a lot about it, talked to my mentors and family, and we're like, you know what, we really like it here in Grand Rapids, and let's give this a shot, So I actually had to call the coach at Notre Dame College back and let her know that I was turning it down and that I accepted the position at Grace.
Well, would you have to say it was pretty challenging, because knowing that, you're applying for a collegiate job with very little experience, coming from high school, a little bit of middle school. What was the preparation like going into an interview for a coaching job at a collegiate level?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, a lot of this, if you try to research this stuff, like you don't find much on
Yeah.
how to prepare
Oh yeah.
yourself for, you have to have people that have already done it to tell you what it was. And thank goodness I had Steve, who was always telling me like everything, like this is what you should expect. But it could be more laid back. It could be more formal. But it might include all these things too. Right. So for those interviews, Steve really helped prepare me for it. It is similar to, a regular professional position and interview, in a sense that you want to dress nice and all that stuff, but there's a side of the coaching where you'll want to be ready and have your gym bag and your shoes ready to go if they want you to run a drill. So
Yeah.
you have to be prepared in that sense too, that you have things ready to go if they ask you, and I just remember him telling me, like, all the little things matter. Like, I remember every time I interviewed with someone after he told me this, I remembered to wear like either a blazer or a top that was like the school color. And so,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, because he always said that, he would go and then he would wear like a tie or something that is the color of that school. And so, being prepared for those, it's always hard because you don't really know what to expect based off of the coaches. Some of them might be very formal. Some of them might be very informal. My interview with Grace, it was very informal. We met at a basketball court. We talked hoops. We talked
Yeah.
X's. We talked X's and O's. We were on the same page, and from there on, he thought his way through, and then he's like, you know what, this is going to be a great fit. So at the time, we were both running the same offense and defense, and so it kind of helped out, and wanted the energy and someone a little bit younger, and so I was a good fit for that. And then for Davenport, this one was a little bit different. It was a phone call, and again, the process was very quick. It's very quick. These coaches, they know what they want, they know what they're looking for, and so you're ready to answer questions like, what do you think about this offense? What do you think of this defense? How do you handle tough situations with your players? All that sort of stuff. So I think that when I interviewed today, it's a lot, I don't want to say easier, but I'm a lot more prepared for those interviews than I was my first job, my second one. So
absolutely. It's like, the more interview you get, like they always say, the more interview you get, the more confident you build from it.
Oh yeah.
Because you're kind of already expecting some of these questions, or you're expecting the quizzes that they're going to give you, or
exactly,
or or the type of, ideas coming into an interview. So, you coached 1 year as an assistant at Grace, correct?
I was actually for 2 years, I was an assistant. My third year, I was an associate head coach for half the year. And then I took over that third year halfway through the year as a head coach. And then my fourth year, I was a head coach all year.
So take me back to your last year with the team at Grace. So I know you guys did pretty good. Take me through the process. What was it like? What was the experience like? Traveling and playing in these tournaments. Like, what was the experience like being a head coach?
Yeah, it's definitely very, very different from being an assistant coach. It's like any other job where you're just an employee to now you're the supervisor, right? And now you have all these things on your shoulders, and how you perform and how your team, what their output is now on you. So it's different. A lot more responsibilities, obviously. But those responsibilities kind of depend on your ability to delegate and to be able to find assistant coaches that are able to help you, right? So with it being my first year of head coaching last year, it was very eye-opening. I hired a whole new staff. And so I hired a gentleman that came on board. He helped us with our recruiting. He helped us with our player development and our bigs. And then I hired on a second assistant, and she was an alum. So then I brought her on board. She played at Grace. She went to school at Grace, which was going to help us with our recruiting. And it was going to help us with our players as well. So she was wanting to get, into coaching, and what better way to come back and be an alum and coach at the school that you played at. And so, to be able to give back and allow opportunities for young coaches that want to get into the game too. So then I brought her on board. And so then really that was pretty, I think by the time it was said and done, it was like this time last year that we got everyone hired in, and we were actually able to start training camp when the students moved in this week last year. So, that because I was head coach my third year, halfway into the year, my third year, I was able to evaluate, have, meetings with our players after the year, evaluations, all that sort of stuff. And then we were able to have a whole summer of off-season workouts. And so we got to experience that. I got to put together a preseason or training camp in the month of September for us. And so then we added that stuff. We added weight training. We added, different programs that would help our student athletes learn, offensive, defensive sets, to help them in the weight room, to help them strength and conditioning, agility, that sort of stuff that we didn't have in the previous years. So yeah, and then taking care of that, the scheduling, was all on me as well. So scheduling games.
Wow. Okay.
It's a lot of different things that gets put on your shoulders, but it's like I said, at a small school like this, you wear almost every single hat. But I think it's even better because as you grow and you go to the next level, you have experience in these things already, as to where if you have a coach that just begins at the Division I level as a assistant coach, third assistant coach, or they might be a director of basketball ops, they might only know one thing, right? They might only be good at one thing. Well, at a small program like for me, I've been well-versed in scheduling. I've been well-versed in the logistics and planning for hotels and buses and vans and coordinating all that sort of stuff, and game day to warm-ups, and we even do all of our equipment and uniforms. All that stuff is taken care of by us, from laundry, littlest things as laundry, cleaning up our own bench. And so, you get to do a lot of those things, and I'm thankful for it. I'm the type of person that there's no job or no duty or responsibility too big for me. It doesn't matter if I'm a head coach, doesn't matter if I'm an assistant director of basketball ops or a student manager. Like, I will do what I am asked to do, and I will go beyond that. So, yeah, but as a head coach overall, it was a game changer. And my first year, it was a lot of learning. It was a lot of, we put in a whole new offense, a whole new defense. And on top of that, we were trying to build culture in the program. So the first year was, like I said, lots of learning, lots of ups and downs. I wish we would have went further. We made it to the tournament, but you know, it's just how it is. Culture, like I said earlier, doesn't build overnight, and it takes time.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, you Grace was a Division III college.
They are NCAA Division II, so they're in a
Okay.
small Christian college league. And we play in the Mideast region. So teams that we would play are Great Lakes Christian College out in Lansing. And then like the next closest schools, we would travel down to Harrodsburg, Kentucky. We would go down to Nashville, Tennessee. And so we did a lot of traveling, which was really fun. You know, it was really fun. We had a lot of opportunities that not your typical school gets. So, traveling, we got to see the world a lot. Went to Florida quite a bit, almost every single year that I was here, besides for the COVID year that got canceled. And then competing at a high level too. I mean, we were at the national tournament 3 out of the 4 years I was at Grace, and playing big schools like Eastern and Oakland.
Yeah.
Some big dogs in the GLIAC like Ferris and Grand Valley, and then went out and played Oakland. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun, you know, a lot of fun, lots of traveling, get to see the world, get to meet a lot of different people.
I'm very interested. This is the one thing that I'm very, very interested in. Like, you know, take me through a little short brief of how recruits happen. Like, I'm always fascinated about it. Like, how do you guys recruit? What's the process to going out and recruiting, knowing who to recruit, who's available to recruit? Like, how does that process work?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was exposure, right? These kids that want to play at the next level, you need exposure. So if you're not playing high school, you better be playing AAU, because that is where the coaches are at. I'm not speaking for any other sport, but I'm speaking for women's basketball in general. Okay. Is we will recruit you at high school games. We will recruit you at AAU games. High school games are tougher because we're in season at the same time they are.
Mm-hmm.
So not that we won't still get out to them. We will, but AAU season, which is in the summertime, that's when we get out. And those are all the recruiting times that we get to come out as coaches to come and evaluate and watch. Depending on your level, NCAA Division 1, 2, and 3 has different rules on when coaches can contact, when they can make contact with their recruits and all that sort of stuff. That's a whole different story. But if you want to play college basketball, exposure, play AAU, play high school. Second thing, you need to make sure that your high school and your AAU coach knows that you want to play at the next level, right? After that, now we got to figure out, okay, what level do we realistically think you can play at? Kids these days, they all think they can play D1.
Right.
They all think they can play D1. And some kids you can, but the question is, D1 ain't just about the talents. It ain't just about the skill. It's about commitment. So are you going to be able to commit your life to this university and not have a job, not see your family? When you're on Christmas break, you're not really on Christmas break. You're playing games in Hawaii. You're playing games in Florida, right? You're not going to get long breaks. Now, let's back it up to being at Grace. We'll give you a little bit more time off. We might give you this stuff, but that's also because of the different levels that we're at, right? Division 1, you're getting your school paid for. That's like a job. It's a full-time job. So when kids are always just saying, I want to play D1, I want to play D1, I want to play D1. Student athletes, you got to recognize how much more work it takes to play at the Division I level and the mentality to be able to do that. So just because you think that you're good enough to play at it doesn't mean that you're built for it. So you see a lot of kids that will commit to Division I schools and then end up transferring. So aside from that, there are a bunch of recruiting websites that student athletes can make a profile of themselves. And so you guys probably see it all the time on Instagram, on Twitter, on social media of just clips of players and their highlight, right? So those are really important. We get films sent from us from whether it's a personal email or a profile from a recruiting website all the time. Coach, I'm interested in playing for you. Are you looking for a point guard? I'm 5'9", I can handle the ball. Here's a clip. Here's my information. Here's my GPA. Here's my, the school that I went to. These are the things I'm good at. This is what I want to study. So that's a little bit a gist and a window of what that kind of looks like. Other than that, if you're good, you'll get found by these coaches. They'll find you.
Now, when you guys do the recruits, is it more locally? Are you guys allowed? I mean, do you guys go outside the local area to be able to recruit, or how's that work?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, all I've ever known is recruiting at Grace, right? So at Grace, we don't give athletic scholarships. So now all of a sudden our pool is this big to this big because kids want money. And so, we have a small pool to work with. And then all of a sudden we have to go, okay, well, we're a Christian university now. Now our pool gets even smaller. And so, and then we say, okay, we also play in the NCAA. No one knows what the NCAA is. Now our pool gets even smaller. Mm-hmm. So then what I'm trying to get at is I really tried to recruit, like my third year, kids that were in the surrounding area of, like, as far as Indianapolis to Columbus, Ohio, Madison, Wisconsin, and then as far as like up north in the UP. And those kids always ended up, even if they liked your staff, even if they liked the players in the school, they always ended up staying home because they weren't getting money. And then, they wanted to play close to home, or there was a school that was nearby that they were an hour or two away that family can be there. And so, honestly, like, to answer your question, and what I'm trying to say is it depends on what your school is and who you're targeting, right? Because I could go out and get all the talented kids that I want, but they might all be nursing students. Well, if my university doesn't provide nursing education, they ain't coming to my school.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Now you lose out on those kids. So you do have constraints that, you kind of have to stay within, and remember that the bigger school you're at, the more majors and programs that you might have. So the more kids that you can recruit from. I mean, you want to compare that to Michigan State, Michigan, these guys are getting kids everywhere, but I will tell you that they still recruit locally too. We'll still see them at tournaments in Grand Rapids here, recruiting local kids here. So depending on the personnel of the coach and who they want, they might go into the transfer portal and try to recruit from the transfer portal, because when you're in the transfer, it means you came from another college. What does that mean? It means you already have a year, 2 years of experience in college, versus me going to recruit a kid from high school. This high school kid has no college experience, right? So some coaches are like, you know what, I'm going to recruit heavy from the transfer portal. And then some are like, you know what, I want fresh out of high school. I'm going to recruit these kids out of high school. It just depends.
That's pretty interesting because, you see college coaches go out all over the world to coach and recruit young players to come to their school. But it definitely makes sense. You guys are a smaller school, so probably more likely, right? Probably more local kids that probably gonna join the school and play for the school. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, so now that you're done, you coach your last season. What made you decide to take your skills and your coaching experience to another level? What made you take the job at Davenport?
Yeah, so honestly, like it really did, and I never told Steve this yet. So Steve, if you listen to this, it like Steve really pushed me this summer, and like I said, he's always gonna be that blunt person to you and say, hey, like, what are you doing to get better? And you need that person. Like, to everyone out there that wants not just coaching, you want to go to the next level, like, find a mentor, find somebody that's going to hold you accountable for wanting to be the best you. And so, like, he just kept pushing, like, hey, like, what are you doing to get better? What are you doing to, even if you're not recruiting here, like, what are you doing? He's always asking those questions, and I really wasn't looking to leave Grace at all. And we were actually at our vacation trip down in Nashville, and this was during July 4th. And during July 4th is a huge recruiting tournament, Run for the Roses down in Louisville, Kentucky. I mean, all coaches from all over the nation. You're talking hundreds of courts down there that are just filled with all ages playing and coaches recruiting. And he was just like, well, what are you up to? And I'm like, we have our annual family vacation during this time. And he's like, you should be out recruiting. And I'm like, yeah, I should be out recruiting, but like, this is the time that, I gave. And, that was kind of like the first push. And then the second was, he reached out and he was just like, hey, like, I have a few opportunities. Like, would you be interested? And I think what's tough about being young and wanting to tap into the coaching world is you got to be willing to take opportunities wherever they are, whenever they are. And when I was, first tapping into it, that was me. I was like, okay, wherever it is, then I want to go there, Um, and like now that I've got a few years into it, now that like Dan kind of, Dan is a little bit more used to what schedules look like and what the coaching world looks like. We really enjoyed being in West Michigan. And so I wanted to, whatever was next for me and in my future, at least for right now, I wanted that to be in Grand Rapids. So that was tough. And like, he sent a few things out to me and it wasn't in the area. And, he just kept reminding me, hey, you got to remember, like, you can't be too choosy, you can't be too picky and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I know. And, he just kept sending them to me. And, shout out to him because like, it's kind of like the friend where like they invite you out so many times and you say no like 20 times and finally that friend's like, no, I ain't asking you anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Steve never stopped asking me. And so he really pushed me to like think outside the box and say, hey, like, yes, you're at Grace, but remember where you want to be. What are your goals and what steps are going to get you to your goal? And so then we were down in our trip and, I had a lot of time to think. And have you watched that movie Hustle on Netflix yet?
Uh,
With Adam Sandler? It's about
yes,
basketball. Yeah.
yes, I love that movie.
Yeah. And man, that movie just like inspired me even more. And like the entire week, I just had an update from Davenport, like on Indeed saying assistant coach hiring, assistant coach hiring. And I just kept swiping it. I was like, nope, I'm staying at Grace. I'm staying at
Yeah,
Grace. And then the last day it like popped up again. I'm like, man, like what the heck, And so then I was like, you know what, like maybe I'll just look into it. And it was still open. Reached out to the coach. It was still open. And like I said, I was not looking to leave, but within like a week or 2 weeks, it was done, and I made my decision. And I was like, you know what, like if I get the offer, I know that like this is a sign from God that this is the next step. It's time to make that next step. And aside from that, I'm really excited because Coach Sanders at Davenport, she seems to be a very knowledgeable coach. She came from Saginaw Valley, and so she has been in the GLIAC conference, so she knows how to beat teams in that conference. And I'm excited to learn from her. I'm excited to learn from a female coach. I'm excited to learn from someone that already has experience at the Division II level. And just so far, even after our meetings and stuff, she's just very knowledgeable. She knows what she wants. She knows what she wants from us. And so I'm really excited. And I think a big part of it was, like I said, no matter how long you're in the game, whether you're coaching or playing, there's still so much more to learn. And so I was, again, at a part of my career where I'm like, you know what, I want to learn. I want to continue learning from people, because if I don't keep learning, then I'm never going to get to my, potential. And so, those were a few things that kind of pushed me to take this next step and to accept the opportunity at Davenport.
Well, you're definitely going in the right direction. Most people,
thank you.
They kind of climb the hill, but they want to come back down. And the way I see it, you're moving straight up. And best of luck to you. I think the opportunity is definitely coming your way. I see the passion that you have. I see the mindset, the focus, and the energy that you have. Just talking to you in person, I think you have a great mindset. So keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing. One thing I want to ask you is what is a message that you can send out to all the girls, all the Hmong girls in the community, or anybody who wants to take that next step from whether they want to play basketball and go to the collegiate level play, or maybe even just taking that step into coaching. What kind of advice can you give these young girls so it'll help them move in that direction?
Yeah. I think for me, I always say this, the first thing I always say is never, ever let anyone tell you that you can't. And whether it might be your family, it might be someone that you love the most, it might be your friends, it might be an enemy, right? But do not let that person tell you that you can't make it to the next level, and to keep pushing through. And my next advice is ask questions. Whether you want to be a coach at the next level, it doesn't even have to be at the next level. Maybe you just really, really want to give back to our youth, right? Our kids and youth and all that stuff. Ask how you can be a part of that. Student athletes that want to make it to and play in the collegiate level, ask questions. Lance, my nephew, right? He wants to play at the next level. And I said, well, what are you doing right now to play at the next level? And I gave him a few different tasks this summer. And I said, look, if you want to play at the next level, I'm going to ask you a question right now. Does your coach know? If he doesn't know, then he needs to know, because that's going to be the one person that really, really, really gets your film out and has connections to the next level, to those coaches. Right. And then, making sure the right people know. And now it's, well, if you don't know how to get there, it's as simple as asking somebody and doing the research. Don't just give up on, oh, dang, it's too hard, because everything is hard, but you got to choose your hard, right? Are you going to choose the hard of, going to work every single day at corporate because you didn't want to send that email to the coach? You didn't want to send 150 emails to coaches to hear 149 no's and 1 yes? Choose your hard. You want that no, or you want that opportunity? You'll never know what's going to come your way. So take the chance and just keep moving forward. And, to all the Hmong female athletes out there, those that want to get into sports or are already in sports that want to continue, any way that I can help share my side of the story, please let me know. I want to help you guys. And I don't have kids, but I do have a perspective from being married as well and having a husband that understands and is very supportive. And sometimes it's not always like that. And so, if you guys have questions, reach out to me, and, I can give my contact to be here. And if you guys want to reach out, just let me know. You guys can find me on social media too. So just keep pushing for your dreams and striving for greatness.
Yes. Anybody who wants to reach out to Ashley, I can definitely give that information to. But before we take off, Ashley, and thank you so much for your story. It's very inspirational. You inspired me. I know at one point, as you was growing up, you're kind of asking me questions, and now I'm asking you the questions, and you motivated. And I said this to you many times. Me and my wife, we ran into you many times, and I'm gonna keep saying this. You're motivating me. You motivated me. You've encouraged me. And I know that we have a big age gap here, but I think I'm just like you. I'm to the point where I've been doing a lot of things throughout my young life that I kind of put myself in a position to where I just wanted to do it just so that I can make other people happy. But I've never did it to where I wanted to be happy. Mm-hmm. So now that's why I'm taking that step, and I applied at Davenport. Now I'm working towards my sports management degree, So now I want to do something that I'm going to enjoy, love doing, whether it's coaching or anywhere in that industry. That's where I want to be. And you helped me out through this. You inspired me. I thank you so much. And of course, big shout out to all my other friends who's coaches, assistant coaches out in Minnesota and Wisconsin. They give me a lot of kind words as well too. And a big shout out to you, Ashley. You continue to keep doing what you do. But I want to have one question for you before we take off. Okay. Of course, all these college athletes, they're getting paid. I want to know your thoughts about college athletes getting paid. Come on, give me a little short brief.
Yeah. Hey, this could be its own podcast, man.
Without breaking a long summary, give me just a little quick thought.
Yeah, of course. We were talking about this at work the other day, and I've got a bunch of guys that sit around me, and they gave their opinion. I told them, here's my opinion, and all coaches have their own opinions, but I do believe that athletes should be compensated for their name and usage and their likeliness and all that sort of stuff, especially at the Division I level. It's like I said earlier, it's like a full-time job. Mm-hmm. And then you have the argument of, oh well, that's what they get a scholarship for and all that sort of stuff, and I do agree to that. I think that there should be restrictions. I don't know what those restrictions are, but I think that there should be restrictions in regards to how much you can make, and is it consistent with your performance and all that sort of stuff, just like any other job would be, right? But I do think that there should be restrictions so that it doesn't take away from the game that we play. And I'll just kind of leave it with me ending like this. The reason I say that is because I don't really watch professional anymore, because everyone is all about the money now.
Yes.
Yeah. And so with me coaching at the college level too, I've learned to really, really appreciate it. And so I'm hoping that by me saying that, I support to an extent college athletes getting paid or, getting compensated for, being college athletes, I don't want it to take away from the competitive and the passion for the game, because I used to watch like when Chauncey Billups and Tayshaun and, when teams, they weren't stacked and all that stuff, when teams weren't just leaving for money and all that stuff. And the game was true, and so I don't see much of that anymore in the NBA. And, we'll watch it to get plays and all that sort of stuff. But like for the passion and stuff, like that's why I watch college basketball now. So I just hope that it doesn't get out of hand. I hope that they, there are constraints to it and that they restrict what that looks like for college athletes.
I think it's going to get better. I think it's going to get better. Being so new to this whole college athletes getting paid, I'm pretty sure later here in the future, things can kind of get out of hand. It might not. They're going to probably tweak some things around, reformat everything, and get things going. So, but it is what it is. I'm happy for a lot of these athletes. I do hope that all collegiate athletes get paid for their name and stuff like that. Fortunately, some probably won't, some will, but we're along here for the ride too at the same time. But Ashley, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed every moment of this. I hope that you're able to inspire everybody who's watching this. I know you inspired me as well, and I can't stop saying it, but continue to do what you do. I'm going to be rooting for you. I'm going to be coming to some of the games. I know that you mentioned that you're probably going to be in the Metro Detroit area a couple of times. So me and my wife, we're definitely going to make time to come down there and root for you, root for the team. I go there now, so I'm rooting for the Panthers. So
that's right.
I'm in it. I'm in it too. So, but again, Ashley, thank you so much. Tell your husband I say hi. Good luck to you this season, and keep it up. And we'll touch base.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you, B, and for everybody out there, continue to follow my guy B here. You're putting out some good content, and hey, man, I'm proud of you too. And you've inspired me just as much as you said I've inspired you, and I'm just a small part of a journey. And any way that I can help, like I said, just give me a holler, man. So I appreciate it. It's been an honor being on your show here.
Thank you so much, Ashley, and we'll talk again.
All right, take care.
Thanks.